Welcome viewers to the Early Childhood Development Talk Show. My name is Jessica Brown and I will be moderating this discussion on early learning and learning through play. Thank you for joining us. In the early years of a child's life, their learning happens through play. Play creates powerful learning opportunities across all areas of development. Development and learning are complex and holistic, and yet skills across all developmental domains can be encouraged through play, including motor, cognitive, and social and emotional skills. For example, while children are playing, they can try out new social skills such as sharing toys, agreeing how to work together with materials, and they can often take on some challenging cognitive tasks such as figuring out how to make a building with smaller blocks when larger ones are not available. Children are hands-on learners. They acquire knowledge through playful interactions with objects and people. Play sets the foundation for the development of critical social and emotional knowledge and skills. Through play, children learn to forge connections with others and to share, negotiate, resolve conflicts, as well as learn self-advocacy skills. Play also teaches children leadership as well as group skills. And furthermore, play is a natural tool that children can use to build their resilience and coping skills as they learn to navigate relationships and deal with social challenges, as well as conquer their fears. Play satisfies a basic human need to express imagination, curiosity, creativity, which are all vital skills for the 21st century. Before I introduce our guest, I'd like to provide you with a brief understanding of the Right Start campaign, which this TV show falls under. The Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare, Education, Arts and Culture, and the Ministry of Health and Social Services have all instituted the Right Start National Campaign on Integrated Early Childhood Development. This national campaign seeks to raise awareness and reinforce the importance of the early years of a child's life. Under the slogan, "Make a child's first steps the right steps," the campaign seeks to promote behavioral change towards the optimal development of children, improved integrated ECD policy implementation and service delivery, increase national funding for ECD, and improve the frequency and quality of conversations about how critical these early years are, as informed by research in neuroscience. This campaign is supported by the European Union, Interteam Switzerland, and UNICEF Namibia. Let's have a look at this informative video, and when we come back, we'll say hello to our guests.
Hello everybody, Moses here, and welcome to Right Start TV. Children learn from anything around them. Yes, that's right, they even learn through play. Don't believe me? Watch what happens. When children play, they develop their motor skills, social skills, and it promotes cognitive development and problem solving. Some games improve their memory and intelligence through repetition. Play with your children. Let them play to learn so that one day they can change the world. Make a child's first steps the right steps through play. To find out more, visit the Right Start campaign website at www.rightstart.com.na.
Joining me today for this very important discussion about early childhood development and the Right Start campaign is Ms. Indaleni Daniel, the Section Head for Early Childhood Development at the City of Windhoek. Welcome. Ms. Liesel Muller, the founder of Busy Brains ECD Centers and a principal. Welcome. And lastly, Ms. Mila Cravino, an ECD consultant and expert. Welcome. So Mila, we'll start with you. Learning through play takes many forms, but can you tell us a bit more about play-based learning and how this might be supported in homes?
Play-based learning means to learn while at play. The play takes many forms. Two different types of play have been the primary focus. The free play, it's directed by the child itself, and the guided play, which it's a play that has some level of adult guidance or involvement. So in this case, we have the free play where the child chooses what she wants to do it. Can be a game, can play with the dolls, role play, singing. So the child is in charge of the activity. So the guided play, it's where parents or adults or teachers, they guide the child or they can be involved in the process. So imagine children or parents, they can explore this type of play at home by allowing the child to be part of the chores in the house, by playing different games, traditional games, and also by singing, role play. So these two types, primary types of play, they can be explored in the household.
And do both types of play have equal importance for the child's brain development?
Yes, they do. Different because when the child is in charge of the process, she's developing a positive self-esteem and to be the driving force and to be in charge and to take decisions. The guided play, it's where the adults, they guide the child along the process, and also the child learn how to cope in the society.
Okay, great, thank you. And Liesl, in terms of in classrooms, what should ECD centres and pre-primary schools be doing to foster play-based learning?
I think, yes, to add to what Mila said, you get the indoor play and you get the outdoor play. What we like to do is we like to combine both of those types of play, the free play and then the more structured play. So the more structured play we would put on tables or have a little corner so that the equipment you're using stays together, because the kids tend to walk around with it a lot. And then the free play you have set up in the room. So you'll have your dolls area set up, you'll have blocks, you'll have animals, a little bit far apart from each other so that the child can choose. And then you also have the more adult-led play that's at a table where you say, well, come and have a look over here. But I think what schools need to realize is that sometimes you set out an activity and the child just changes it. So we like to let the child choose. You know, they come in, they choose, do they want to come and do a more activity, more structured activity, or do they want to go do the free play activity? So for instance, you would set out color blocks with empty containers and you would expect the children to come and sort them out. We try not to interfere too much originally, but when you find them, they will start pouring it over or start building the blocks and whatever, and that's fine because this child feels his fingers needs to work on building. So he's playing that.
And exactly, and even if the play changes structure, there's still learning going on, there's still creativity happening, and the child is still developing their brain.
Exactly.
So Mila, if I can just go back to you and ask, you've worked as a teacher and a teacher trainer for many years, and when parents are paying fees for centres and schools, they're sometimes alarmed to see children playing and having fun, rather than the more kind of traditional learning that parents might expect to see, children sitting at desks. And how do you deal with this in terms of dealing with the parents' expectations? And what ideally should parents be looking for when they go to see an ECD centre and consider enrolling their child?
I think the most important things we need to start to demystify the idea that how children they learn and teach parents how the child develops herself and how they learn best. Because the idea just to focus on cognitive skills or academic skills, that it's not the correct one. So we need to explain parents that a child needs to be developed in all the different competences. And before the cognitive skills, they take place, we have other competences which they are much more important to develop in the beginning. And we talk about the physical development, we talk about the social development, and we talk about the emotional development. Before the cognitive, we can say we have like levels. So in these levels, before we reach the cognitive one, we need to develop the other ones. And to develop the other ones, the best practice and the best methods, it's learning through play. So imagine when a child starts to walk, start to interact, start to play and move around, she's able to establish connection with the people around her. When she's able to establish that connections, she's coping and she's learning to behave in a society. And also she's developing herself emotionally because she's able to identify her inner feelings and to manage them as well. So in this case, we need to develop the child holistically. We need to develop the child as a whole. So we need to explain parents these. Just the cognitive ones or the academic skills, they are not just the important ones. We have other skills, they need to take place before that cognitive development. Because sometimes parents, they are just worried about reading and writing and counting, identify colors and numbers. But that is the ultimate stage. Yes. Because before we need to be able to establish connections between us, relate to others, play with others and learn. So we can tell what I can say it's advise parents, when they look for ECD center for their children, please look at if that ECD center has an active and collaborative and cooperative approach where children, they learn through play. Children, they need to play. They need to explore the world around them. They need to discover. And for that, parents, they need to look at ECD center, which provides active learning.
Yeah, and I think it's important to stress that before a child goes to grade 1, If this child is forced into a situation where it's too rigid structure, for example, sitting at little desks, being forced to do a lot of cognitive activities, you can actually hinder the child's development because they're not having this opportunity to explore, to investigate, to figure things out by themselves, and to develop these motor skills, language skills, cognitive, emotional and social skills. Indeleni, over to you. The city of Windhoek has paved the way in Namibia as a local authority, which has really committed itself to ECD. Can you tell us a bit more about your ECD agenda and what you ideally would like to be seeing in ECD centers across the city?
Thank you, Jessica. Yes, the city of Windhoek is one of the only, or the champion when it comes to early childhood development. The city itself, I head the section for early childhood development, although I'm not here representing the city today. But yeah, amongst the services, or initially when the early childhood development section was established, it was under community development, which means it was more, or the aim, it was more of social arm for the city of Windhoek. The section for early childhood development within the city of Windhoek is mandated basically to carry out 4 goals. It's for training, and the training is more of capacity building, mostly for people in the informal settlement in Katutura, and these are people that are having children or having centers, but they do not have formal qualification or they are not trained to be educators or caregivers. And then another one is parental education. With parental education, we just try to teach the parents and to educate them on the importance of ECD and how to stimulate and play with their children. And besides now the parental education, we are also tasked or mandated to do inspection and registration. You know, the city of Windhoek is the local authority, and whatever activity is happening within the boundaries of the city of Windhoek, it has to be recorded and it has to be registered. So one of our mandates is now to ensure that we have registered. Yeah, although it's a challenging thing because some of the ECD owners do not come and tell us that we have an ECD center. Some of them will come across them just as you are walking around and you realize there is an ECD center here. But yeah, we do inspect them and we advise them what they have to put in place in order for them to at least to comply. Yeah, which is a challenge, especially the ECD centers in the informal settlement and in Katutura. You can talk of the square meter required or education. Yeah, but we do not have the mandate to close them, but we do advise and we will just not issue them a compliance certificate.
Sure. And I think this, what you mentioned about parental education is so important, so that parents know to promote play-based learning from very young with their children, that children don't learn just when they start in grade 1, but that learning starts from as soon as you have a young baby already, talking to them, playing with them, telling stories. But also, like you said, for parents to understand what a good quality ECD center looks like, so that when they go to enroll their children, they are picking one that complies with the standards and is promoting play-based learning.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And yeah, a lot of parents, and it's also to realize that when they play or when a child is playing at home, they are not wasting their time.
Exactly.
They're trying to be creative.
Yeah.
They will try to build, to build or to grow their brain to be flexible, and the stimulation is quite very interesting. Even if they just involve them in their little house chore activities, everything is just a learning activity. Just for them to understand that involving children or allowing them to play or to decide even what to wear is part of learning.
Yeah, and I think that's very important, that this play that happens at home, it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be complicated. Just involving children in your everyday activities. Washing the dishes can become a fun little game if you passing colorful plates or cups back and forth. Very mundane day-to-day things can become fun for a child if a parent is a little bit involved. We are talking about early childhood development, and we'll be right back. Welcome viewers to the Early Childhood Development Talk Show. My name is Jessica Brown and I will be moderating this discussion on early learning and learning through play. Thank you for joining us. Learning through play takes many forms, but can you tell us a bit more about play-based learning and how this might be supported in homes?
I was just watching the kids play the other day again, and it's amazing to see how they, let's say there's blocks. Then they start talking to each other, and the one is like, but how will I get this? I want to build a tower. And then the other one says, but why don't you try to put more at the bottom or whatever? So they're helping each other to solve problems. They're communicating. They're telling each other, no, that's not a block. It's a cube, or whatever. They correct each other.
Yeah.
There's a huge benefit. What in the end, or the results in the end, it also encourages language skills because when they do free play, when they play, they improve their communication skill, they improve their language. It also support pre-literacy.
Yes.
They sometimes sound letters and things like that. And it also develop their social and emotional development, all those skills.
Welcome back, and now we will continue with asking some questions around ECD and the Right Start campaign. So Liesel, if I can ask you, when ECD centers are really promoting play-based learning, there tends to be more activity, and this can mean more noise, the need for more supervision. So can you maybe give us some tips and guidance about how you ensure that there's a conducive learning environment happening at these ECD centers, even with all these different activities, or especially with all these different activities going on?
Yes, no, it is a noisy story, but it's lovely, What we do, I think the role of the teacher is sort of to create the environment. So you need to make sure how you set up the classroom, don't put a ball inside because the children are going to kick the ball and throw it around. So you need to know what needs to go outside, what needs to go inside. And then we like to set up before the kids arrive. So you've got everything ready so that when that child arrives, it's this invitation to come and play. If you just put a toy down, they're not going to start playing with it. But if you have a little table there with a cup and a saucer, or they're like, oh, okay, let's make a tea party. They will start. You sort of initiate it, and they keep going. And so we've got, children are very adaptable, and they learn like this. So we set up the room, and when the child arrives, you tell them, okay, guys, so this is inside. Obviously, if you have a big, wide open space, the children are going to use it to run and catch each other and stuff. So you you put tables in between, or you make little sections where you can still see every corner of the room, but it's created in little corners so that they can just go and play there. And they don't disrupt each other, so that the one playing with the cars is not going over the blocks, that type of thing. And
again, I think it's important that parents know that this is not out of control chaos. This is active learning taking place.
Yes.
And this is children having opportunities and choices and learning different skills in this environment.
Yes.
That just because we're not sitting in regimented lines doesn't mean learning isn't happening. In fact, high quality learning is happening.
I was just watching the kids play the other day again, and it's amazing to see how they, let's say there's blocks. Then they start talking to each other, and the one is like, but how will I get this? I want to build a tower. And then the other one says, but why don't you try to put more at the bottom or whatever? So they're helping each other to solve problems. They're communicating. They're telling each other, no, that's not a block. It's a cube, or whatever. They correct each other. Yeah. The other one arrives. She had a sad morning. Her dog just died or whatever. She goes to the dog. She finds a dog and plays with the dog and puts a blanket. They play out all their emotions. It's beautiful.
And these are all skills that these young children will bring into their adult life. When they're faced with problems around communication, about emotional issues, they will be able to take these skills and apply them in their later life. And it will hopefully will result in us seeing much more positive relationships and much more positive coping skills in the long run.
Exactly.
So, Liesel, you mentioned already some of the different kind of materials and things that you use in your centers. But Indaleni, I wanted to ask you what type of materials and infrastructure ECD centers need to promote play-based learning, and especially ECD centers that are maybe in lower income settings.
Quite interesting, yeah. Children are very amazing, and they are very interesting. You can put any item there, she will find a way to play with it. And I think it's a belief that we only need to have both materials. It's not necessarily that parents need to use materials that they need, or they have to buy materials. You can just create some things. You can base it on your environment. For example, if a child is in the village, normally they see stick houses. Those are readily available. As a teacher or a caregiver, you can just prepare that or ask the children to make their own houses. You will be amazed what they can come up with just with the materials or items that they can find. Whether it is an outdoor activity or outdoor play or indoor, they will always find something which they can build up to make a house, as long as they know what they are very creative. That's what I think. In terms of material, it does not need to be an issue not to allow children to have free play. Free play, by giving them free play or allowing them, you will even amazed or surprised on what they can come up with, because they do this voluntarily. It's more child directed. They choose what makes them happy. Like Mila just also said, they have what we call free play and guided play. But I always get fascinated on free play and see what they can turn up and make if they just have to choose what they want to do themselves. There's a huge benefit. What in the end, or the results in the end, it also encourages language skills, because when they do free play, when they play, they improve their communication skill, they improve their language. It also support pre-literacy. They sometimes sound letters and things like that, and it also develop their social and emotional development, all those skills, and also foster the creativity within them, which will help them later in future.
And Mila, I believe you also wanted to add something about that.
Yeah, I want to add, even when we have free play indoors, because we talk about different type of setup. We can talk indoors and outdoors. Outdoors, the child plays freely and she runs and jump and play and so on. Indoor, we have a different structure or organization behind. You can have the different corners or stations, and each corner and each station has its own rules. So what happens is a teacher in the classroom is able to manage a group of children, 25 in the class, because you have rules behind to support that organization. So what happened is, in the beginning of the year, when the child comes to school, each corner, you agree and you decide the rules with the child. So even when the child goes and it's playing in that specific corner, she knows, I'm doing my free play because I choose to do it, but I have a certain rules I need to respect in my society indoor, because they need to have this structure behind to help them to cope in society. How can I relate to others? So I just want to pass the message to parents that even if it's free play is an organization and a structure behind to give them stability and to keep the learning environment conducive.
And actually, children need this kind of these benchmarks,
guidance.
almost, and guidance, in which they feel that they can safely play within these rules that have been set. Yes, Lisa.
I think what helps at a school as well is we like to let them play outside first to get rid of the energy, and then they go inside, because then they've also calmed down. So they come, you know, when they've all settled, we go outside, get rid of the big energy, and let them get all the muscles working, and then go inside. That works. It works at a school.
So it's all about managing these different needs.
Yes.
And one of the things also, it's about the free play also indoor and outdoor, allows the child to be the driving force, allows the child to be in charge, allow the child to take responsibility. So this free play is very rich in many different aspects. So we need to promote this kind of pedagogy and teaching methods in our classrooms.
And really promotes critical thinking from a very young age, and decision making, and all these, again, that is really vital skills for later in your education, but later also for your adult life and to survive and thrive. So Mila, we mentioned in the introduction that play promotes resilience and coping skills in children. children. Can you explain a bit more about this and maybe give some examples of how play can be used to help children cope with these current uncertain times we have around COVID-19?
You know, like we said, play is a very rich and complete activity for children. So when we talk about coping skills, and we are talking about emotional development. When you talk about resilience, we talk about emotional development. And we know emotional development takes place when we have a chance to relate to others, to cope, to establish relationship with the world around us. So this is happened the same in these COVID times. So if parents, they create situations at home to allow children to learn how to cope in these times. For example, play games with the child at home to say like, the virus is like the wind. You see, we cannot see it, but it's there. Tell the child to wash the hands often with soap or hand sanitizer. So make this a routine for the child to understand, if I do that with soap, I'm killing the virus. So, but teach the child, create routines at home, and also to allow her to cope during these times, but without scaring her, right?
Yeah.
Like in a playful way, right? To prepare her to face this COVID-19.
And the hand washing can be made fun with singing songs. You sing this song however many times.
Yeah.
And then I think another nice example that I saw that some of the ECD centers were promoting social distancing by encouraging the children to flap their wings, and your wings shouldn't touch your friend's wings, and then you create a little social distance around yourself.
Yeah.
We've been talking about early childhood development, and we'll be right back.
Getting GoTV was the best decision James has ever made. No more being distracted by the opposition. Be like James. Get GoTV today and get home ground advantage for every football game. GoTV. Love it.
Welcome back. Our discussion today has been about early childhood development and the National Right Start campaign. So, Liesl, with the COVID-19 lockdown, ECD centres had to shut, and then children were at home for longer periods. So what else can parents and caregivers do to help keep their children's brains stimulated if centres are shut and the children are at home?
I think to add, Jessica, to Mila, what Mila said earlier about the stages of development, you need to understand, first the child needs to be physically developed and strong, then comes the social, emotional, then comes the cognitive only. So I think when you ask that question, everybody immediately jumps to learn numbers, shapes, colors, but that is not the emphasis that they need. If I can give any advice, I think it would be get your child, if they are physically busy, if they are building muscles, leave them. That's what they should be doing. So babies should be on the floor, on their tummies, on their backs. They are developing critical muscles which they need to sit up. If a child's tummy, like core strength, the tummy muscles isn't strong enough, they won't be able to sit at a desk at school one day and concentrate. So those are small little things that we need to do. If a child is walking on the wall, we tend to stop them. We say, get off, don't come, what are you doing? But the child is doing what he needs to do. He's learning, he's balancing, he's learning coordination. So I think anything that promotes getting your child's body strong, sitting with your child, reading a story, developing that bond, just listening to your child. If your child says, Mommy, blah, 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 just listen to your child. Immediately you give them this confidence.
Yeah.
I'm important enough for somebody to listen to me. Those kind of things. And then what I'm quite strongly on is the listening skills for children. So listening, tell them a story without any pictures. Tell them a story that you heard when you were a little child. Share with them. Ask them something, can you please go and fetch this from your room, and see if they remember what they have to go fetch. Small little things like that. And I think, like Ndeleni said, you don't need fancy bought stuff.
Yes.
Whatever you're doing at home, if the child is helping you to hang up washing with the pegs, they're getting the fine muscles, yes, the development in that they need to write one day. If they are helping you put the dishes away, putting all the spoons together, all the knives, all the forks, that's pre-numeracy skills, that's sorting things into categories. So anything that you do at home is beneficial to your child.
And I think it's actually quite a nice opportunity for some families to spend more time together, be more nurturing with the child. And again, I think what's very important, which Mila mentioned, is to try to protect them from the fear related to COVID-19.
Yes.
So that you can explain to them that there's this virus out there and we have to be extra careful to not get sick, but to try and still make it something that doesn't let the kind of external fear reach the household. So keeping the household as a nice kind of protective unit